So in this video we're going to make this mallet. I'm going to do it kind of a step-by-step tutorial, make it as simple as I can. This is a very simple little job and don't take a lot of cutting with a scroll saw. It's just a matter of doing the steps and putting it together. So stay tuned and I'll introduce you to the material and the pattern. Well, real quick, let's cover the pattern and the material for this mallet. Here's how the two pages print out that you need for your pattern. You got these two main pieces, which is the sides of the mallet. These, along with this, make the center of the mallet. Now this all calls for 1 inch. All of it calls for 1 inch. I don't have any 1 inch, so I'm going to substitute, and I'm going to laminate some things here to get a little bit more width and more weight to it. I'm going to use this oak. Here's your two main pieces. I've got this little section marked off here that I need to cut so that I can, that's enough material to cut these two out, and I've got these marked up so I can break it down. And then what I'm going to do, since that's only 3/4 inch, I'm going to add a 1/4 inch to it and make it 1 inch. So I got a piece here marked out. This is oak, this is Wingate, and I'm going to laminate this onto this piece, and then I'll be able to cut these two pieces out of that. For the center, I'm going to leave it 3/4 for now anyway. So these center pieces I'm going to cut out of this. This is also Wingate. It's 3/4 inch Wingate, and this is a piece of oak. I'm going to use that to cut that out for the handle. And first I got to break this down, and then we'll laminate this piece onto here, and then we'll see about mounting the patterns. But first, let's break this material down. Okay, I've gotten these broken down. This is two pieces of oak I'm going to use to make the handle. I may have to add to the bottom of it to make it fit my hand better, but we're going to start with this to see how it works out, because I need it to match the width of the two inner center pieces, which is going to be 3/4 inch Wingate. And then I'm going to cut these pieces out. They'll end up being 1 inch each in width. And I've got those. This is laminated. You've got a 3/4 inch oak and a 1/4 inch Wingate right there. So my only concern is sometimes Wingate doesn't like to glue very well. I haven't had trouble with it, but supposedly it's got some natural oils in the wood that can resist it gluing. Like I say, I've never had trouble, but we'll see how this works out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mount these patterns, and I've got this marked. I'm just going to mount this put some tape and mount these two patterns right here. I'm not going to cut these optional holes out. I'm going to leave this, didn't break it down, it gives me a little bit of more of a handle to work with it. This is kind of tough wood to cut. You're going to have to work slow and easy with it probably. All of these woods are going to be fairly tough to cut. And I have to use a blade because this is 1 inch thick and this is 3/4, so is this. So it's I have to cut it slowly and carefully. But for now, let me get the patterns mounted. I'm going to put blue tape in this section here and across here and on this one side here. And then I'll glue the pattern on that blue tape. And then I'll put some clear tape on these. I'll probably go on both sides all the way around with the clear tape because that helps with the lubrication of the blade, and I'm going to need it with this thicker material. So let me get my tape over here and I'll tape this up and get ready to mount the pattern. Okay, you just want to make sure you get all the bubbles out of it. Get it as smooth as you can. On the back side, make sure you don't have something sticking up that's going to make that rock, make it unlevel on the scroll saw table. Just don't want to get a clump of tape. So that all looks good. Now I'm going to mount the patterns on there. I'm going to use this stick glue. I like this for smaller patterns. It doesn't have any fumes. You can see it as you apply it to the back side, and it turns clear. Applies in a purple color, and then it turns clear. I always rub it on when it's on top of the tape like this, because anything comes off that you miss or on the side is then on the tape, which will help you stick it. I like to make sure you get the corners and everything so they all stick down. See, that purple helps you see where you've applied it. Kind of get it on there where it, then I usually use this lid, smooth it down. So that one's applied. And I'm going, as you see, I've got these oriented. I want, when I put these together, it probably doesn't matter. When I put these together, I want this dark laminated piece on the inside of both sides, and I want the outside to be the oak. So I'm going to cut them in opposite orientation. Probably don't have to, but I'm going to try to keep the same theme throughout on these. These are all outside cuts. You want to make sure you got the glue where the line is where you're going to be cutting. The rest of it just kind of helps hold it down a little bit. Make sure you leave room for the other pattern on there. Of course, this can be readjusted if you have to. That's what I like about it. You can do the same with spray glue if you use it, if you do it soon enough. On these, I'm concentrating on that outer line. A little bit in the center to help stick it down, but when I put the clear tape over it, that's going to help keep it down too. And if I get a piece sticking off like that, sometimes I'll just cut it. In this case, it's sticking pretty well, and so that's that one. This has that option. Like I say, I'm not going to cut that out, so I'm not going to worry about drilling a hole. There'll be no holes to drill on this pattern. It's all going to be internal cuts. Well, the holes you'll drill is for the dowels you use to secure the hammerhead on. But otherwise, there's no internal holes to drill for internal cuts. You know, I need to be thinking about this. I'm going to keep the grain orientation the same. As you can see, I got the grain orientation on this one going this way. That's going to be the face of the hammer. Same thing here. So I'm going to keep the grain orientation going the same way here. So we'll put it on like this. There's things you kind of want to watch out for as you're mounting patterns. Make sure you got the grain the way you want it when you get finished. There's that. Now I'll get my clear tape and I'll go over it with that. Going all the way around these to give me some extra lubrication, because this is a very dense, tough wood. You have to cut it very slowly and carefully. It can heat the blade up dramatically if you get too carried away with it. Try not to have any bubbles or creases, especially where your lines are. That's looking real good. So far, so good. Just going to use one pass on this. I'm going to cover the blade all the way. I'm going to cover the pattern just about everywhere. Alright, that all went real well. Got them mounted, got the clear tape on them. Now we're ready to cut them. I'll get over the scroll saw. I'm probably going to use a 7, maybe a 9 on this. especially this one and this one, because these are extra thick and that's extra hardwood right there. So get the scroll saw set up and then we'll start cutting it. Okay, so I put a number 9 blade in the saw. It's an XL blade, which means that it's non-reverse tooth. I don't want a reverse tooth in a thick, heavy material like this. You don't want a tooth grabbing it from the bottom as you're trying to hold it down. It makes it difficult. It can jump and bang around on you. So I like to go with just a straight blade with this, without any reverse teeth. I'm going to start with this 9, and we'll make this cut on this 3/4 inch and kind of judge from there if I want to stay with there, maybe move up or down on that. We're going to make this easy cut here. And I've already checked the blade. As you can see, it is 90 degrees to the saw surface. So we're going to try to cut this and kind of judge how the blade is doing. I've got clear tape on both sides to help with lubrication. So I think this blade is going to cut this just fine, but we'll see. So here we go. As you can see, I went past my line. I like to do that. That gives me a good entry point to make that next cut. And in a case like this, I just like to go ahead and cut it all the way through instead of trying to turn. I get cleaner cuts that way. And this is cutting very nicely. I think it's going to work fine. It's cutting really well. Now on these pieces that are going to be in the actual hammer mallet head, I'm trying to leave the lines and leave me room to sand everything smooth without taking too much off. That's cutting really nicely. I'm happy with the blade so far. We may have to change it before we finish this project, but let's continue as we are now. plan to do is I made that cut down through here. I'm going to do the same thing here. And you noticed I went past the line a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And when I come across, I'll just cut all these pieces off. Give me good sharp corners there. But again, I'm leaving the line, or trying to, on all these positions. There you can see one of the things that can happen when you're close to an edge. The air, I like for the air to blow off to the side of the blade and blow across. It seems to clean better. In this case, it's trying to hit the edge of that. It's hard to get it positioned just exactly right. So I generally don't like to try to cut like that. On this side it'll be different. But that's just something you have to watch for sometimes to determine which direction you want to cut. Not only for the light that you may have, but if you have openings in the wood on this side of the blade, it may affect how your air blows the sawdust away. And sometimes in some places the adhesive from both the glue and the tapes will affect that. I think that's partly what was happening there. Although the air was having trouble coming over that edge and getting it aimed properly. But sometimes the adhesive will mess you up in areas. Well, I'm cutting this very, very slowly. It's a very thick wood. It's very dense wood. Both of those woods are very dense. And when you're going with the grain like that, it's even harder to cut. This reason I wanted a blade with fewer teeth per inch. It's more like a rip cut than a cross cut. So it's cutting it pretty well, but it is slowing me down going with the grain on this piece. Here we go. I think we can finish this okay with this blade. Another reason I'm cutting across like this is I'm trying to make as little turn as I can. This is very thick wood. You burn the blade up real quick or burn the wood, so I'm trying to make these as straight a cuts as I can everywhere I can. I didn't cut all the way through there because I wanted to leave this part attached. It helps me to guide it and steer it. If you get down too small a piece, you can still cut it. It's just harder to manipulate. You have a hard time getting a hold of it. Well, it's a good thing that's the last cut. The blade was really beginning to have some problems. It just barely made this last rip cut. It was really giving me trouble making it through. And it was getting hard to steer properly when I got up in here. Nothing that it can't be sanded off and made to look okay, because I had a little extra on it. Cut it a little, half a blade width long anyway. I think this is going to be a nice little mallet when we get it together. But now we got to get it over to the table, get the patterns off, except that one. I'll leave the marks for the drill holes for the dowel to go through. And we'll get these patterns off and start gluing it together. So the next step on this is to remove the patterns. I'm not going to remove that pattern because it's got the markings, spots to drill the dowels when you glue it all together. But I'll leave that one on for now, but we do have the clear tape on the back side, and that's what we got to remember on each one of these. You got tape on the back side. You're not going to be able to glue it together with that left on there. So this is just straightforward. There wasn't any internal cuts, so just very simply pull it off.